talked enough. Let's get back into some men's basketball. If you're not watching the HCAC race, you should be, because it's kind of interesting this season. Not to mention the fact it's maybe the one that's kind of undersung on the men's side. By the way, I mentioned somewhere in Kentucky or Tennessee. Well, that's because that's where some of the HCAC teams are. The one we're talking to is actually in Indiana. Being a Chicago guy, you tend to forget about Indiana. Sorry. I know Rusty's going to hate that, but I had to get a shot in somehow. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline from Rose-Hulman, it's Rusty Loyd. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Hi, Dave. How we doing? Just so you know, people in Indiana forget about Chicago all the time.
Oh, you can't, though. You got to drive through it. You can't forget about that city. I know otherwise. Hey, thanks for coming on. By the way, Chicago grad talking about forgetting about Chicago. That's kind of funny.
I know. I spent a lot of time in Chicago, a lot of great friends there. It's my home away from home. And people in Indiana, south of the Gary area, they don't even know Chicago exists.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I know that feeling well. What was I going to say? Well, you're on the south side, though, so us north siders, we're going to let you slide on this one.
I appreciate that.
Anytime. Hey, listen, first and foremost, 12-8 season, 9-4 on the conference slot, which has got you tied for second and game behind Mount St. Joseph's. Not too shabby.
It's a crazy year in the Heartland this year. We're one game out of first, but we're also 2 games out of not making the conference tournament.
True.
I don't think
All right, pessimist.
I don't think we have any great teams this year in the league, but I think we've got a whole bunch of really competitive teams that can beat anybody in our league, can beat anybody on a given night, and that's what's made it such an exciting conference season thus far.
Only because to talk HCAC, I got to take a shot at my buddy Brian Lane. When you look at Brian's schedule, he says 8-12 overall and 7-6 in conference. It tells you a lot because what the heck is going on with Brian's team? But you got 2 guys at 10-10, Hanover at 8-5 in conference, 7-6 in Manchester in conference, and it's the rest of you. Mount St. Joseph's leading the way, and let's be honest, a lot of us thought Mount St. Joseph would be leading the way. But did you think you'd be kind of toe-and-toe with them here?
Well, we were voted second in the conference coming into the season in the preseason poll.
Doesn't mean you believed it.
And I think we had a lot of seniors. We have 5 seniors that play a significant role for us. So I thought we could have a good year. To be honest with you, we started off fairly well, very competitive down at Illinois Wesleyan's tournament against Wesleyan, and just hit a skid there where we just weren't playing very well, but we've won 5 in a row now, so we got things kind of going back in the right direction. We actually go to Mount this weekend for a huge game that has obviously a lot of significance in the conference, and we're looking to keep that winning streak going.
It's interesting. You kind of had a kind of up and down season. You talked about the beginning. There was a nice start. Then you kind of ran into a bit of a challenge. Illinois Wesleyan got you. Wabash got you. Mount St. Joseph nailed you 3 out of 4 with a win against DePaul in the middle. Then you won a couple. Then you lost a couple. You went through a stretch where you lost 5 of 7. You're certainly the train could come derailed right there. 5 out of 7 games lost. Sailed, just mailed the season in. But then you beat Earlham. You beat Transylvania, both on the road. You beat Hanover, Bluffton at home, and you just got the win over Franklin on the road. It's 5 in a row. Completely changed the season, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Before the 5-game winning streak, we were a really average team, and we were playing very average basketball. We could beat people, but we could also get beat by anybody.
Sure.
And since we started this 5-game streak, I think our team has just developed a lot more confidence, that feeling of when coming down the stretch, we're going to find a way to win, and I think we've done a good job of that over that stretch.
Obviously, big stretch ahead. You got 5 games to go, 3 of them on the road. You'll start on the road against Mount St. Joseph in what is obviously, by what we have talked about, a major game. And then Earlham at home, then back on the road against Manchester and Anderson, and then at home to finish the season against Defiance. But obviously, a lot hinges on the next game. And luckily, because coaches only talk about the next game with me anyway, we can talk about this one. Mount St. Joseph coming up here on Saturday. You beat them earlier in the season. They beat you earlier in the season, but when we talk earlier in the season, we're talking December 5th. It's 2 different worlds now. They beat you by 17. Do you even look back at that tape at this point?
I obviously look back at it. They run a very sophisticated offense. They run the Princeton stuff, so you're obviously taking a look at that film. But the interesting thing is you mentioned the 17-point loss. That was actually in overtime, which you don't lose many games by 17 points in overtime.
I forgot about that.
But, they went 16 for 16 from the foul line in overtime. Give them credit.
Is that what you're saying, or are you going after the refs?
No. We were fouling.
Okay.
They scored the first couple possessions of overtime. We went to fouling some guys that were shooting in the mid, high 50s, low 60s, and they give them credit. They just stepped up and made free throws for about the last, 2.5 minutes. So all credit to them. But, you look back at that game, but I think we're a totally different team. I think Mount's a totally different team. Their second-best player, Femi Thompson, did not play against us in that game. So I think they're a better team with him. Joel Scudder is a great player, a kid who's probably, if not the conference player of the year, one of the guys in the discussion for conference player of the year. And, we're going to have to play well when we go over there to get them.
That's interesting to, again, everybody thought Mount St. Joseph was going to be the top of this conference this season. And now you guys are kind of, you're in play where everyone thought you would be anyway. Are you disappointed if you come out of this with a loss, or is this a must-win? What kind of mentality are you guys going in with? What mentality should us as fans have regarding this game from your point of view?
Well, I don't think it's a must-win for us or for them from this standpoint. Neither of us is in the hunt for an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So it's just a matter of making the conference tournament right now. And, we all know once you make the conference tournament, anything can happen. So it's not a must-win. I mean, we lose the game. We're 2 back. They've swept us, so obviously they have the tiebreakers. So probably winning the conference is going to be difficult. But in the end, we talk all the time. We want to win the regular season, but more importantly, we want to win the conference tournament and guarantee that spot in the NCAA tournament. So, I never talk to our team about must-win situations. I think that puts undue pressure on the kids. We talk about going out and playing possession by possession, trying to get defensive stops, trying to put together great offensive possessions. And if you do that, I think you give yourself a chance to win.
It might not be a must-win for at large necessarily, but it's a must-win to determine where this tournament goes for the HCAC. It either goes to your place or their place. This kind of game can determine that.
I would agree with you there, but, we're a team. Funny enough, we play just as well on the road as we do at home. So, I look at it as, obviously we want to win, but I'm not going into it with a must-win mentality or putting that pressure on my team, because if you lose, now the kids think, oh, my gosh, that was a must-win situation. Sure. We lost. What happens now? Is our season over? You know what I mean? Sure. And so I think from a mental standpoint, you go into it saying, hey, it's a game where we got to play well to win, and that's my expectations that we're going to do that.
You have 6 seniors on the squad. What I love about your roster is that you guys list the majors right there on the spot, because I always get a kick out of that. When I go to Caltechs and MITs, it's because I looked at what I could never achieve in college myself, and that I find so fascinating about the student-athletes of Division III. I wish more schools would take this adage on. But you're 6 seniors, a civil engineering, software engineering and economics, mechanical engineering and economics. Those guys are just overachieving. Mechanical engineering, physics, a mechanical engineering again. Yes, seriously, the double majors with economics in there. Stop it. It's just showing off. But, I mean, you have tremendously smart students, and they're tremendously good athletes at the same time, Rusty. I suspect that was part of the draw for you.
Oh, absolutely. I had spent time at some great academic institutions in Earlham College, obviously the University of Chicago, Illinois Institute of Technology. So when I came to Rose, it was going to give me the opportunity to coach kids that were very similar to what I had worked with in the past, what I played with when I was a player at Chicago. And I always say, our kids can have it all. They can be great students, they can be great athletes, and they can be great people. And that's the expectations I have of my players. And, the joke I always make, we have 2 players on our roster right now that don't have the word engineering in their major. One of them is Gary Ulrich, who's a biology major, who's got a 4.0 and going to go to med school. And the other one is Jimmy Miller, who's a physics major. And I always say, if you don't know anything about physics as a major in college, it's 10 times harder than anything else. So I'm really proud of what our kids do.
You actually have 3, Rusty.
Who's the third?
Third is Gary Ulrich, biology.
I'm
sorry. No, Charlie.
Charlie Imany.
Imany, computer science.
Okay. It's actually computer science and software engineering.
Oh, jeez.
We won't split hairs. How's that? We won't
I'm
split
just
hairs
reading what's on your site, Rusty.
I know. So, but I'm proud of our team. We have over a 3.4 team GPA. So, not only are those kids taking hard classes, but they're excelling in them at the same time. And I'm really proud of those student athletes.
By the way, Pat made a comment. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. It's the engineering economics guys are going to be running this country in 10 years. And while I don't disagree with that, it's the fact they're playing basketball on top of that. That's just ridiculous. That's where they're overachieving some things here. Hey, back to the squad, though. What is also scary, if anybody's looking at this squad and looking at statistics, you have 5 guys in double figures, and they're all grouped together. It's not like one guy's dominating. Dylan Reynolds, 12 points a game, 2 rebounds a game. Matt Losing, 12 points a game, essentially 11.9, 3.4. What is it? There it is. I'm looking at personal fouls and rebounds. There we go. 6 rebounds a game. Charlie, how do you say his last name again?
It's Imony.
Imony, okay.
Yep.
Imony and Tyler Duffy, both at 10.5 rebounds a game. 3.5 rebounds for Imony, and Duffy's got 5 rebounds, and then Jimmy Miller, 6 rebounds a game and 10.3 points a game. I mean, that basically means if I'm scouting your team, I can't choose one or the other.
Absolutely. And, it's funny because 4 years ago when we had Julian Strickland, All-American, played in the Reese's All-American game, we were the exact opposite. Strickland was scoring, over 20 points a game for us, and everybody else was at 3 or 4. And, I actually had a coaching friend ask me, would you rather have it that way, where you have one great player, or would you rather have, the balance that you have now? And I told him I'd rather have both. I'd rather have 5 guys averaging 20 points a game. But, I think we are difficult to scout. And, this year we have had 7 different guys lead us in scoring in different games. And I think that's a testament to, us sharing the basketball. I think that's a testament to the depth that we have in the program. And I think it's a testament to, the kids understanding that on a given night somebody's got a hot hand, get them the ball, allow them to operate in their comfort zone and put some points on the board.
Pat Cohen points out that not only are you guys, obviously very good at engineering, 3.4 GPA, all engineering guys, all playing basketball, just tremendous. Rusty, let me take that was my way of trying to slow things down and take a sidestep, if you don't mind. You're in your second season on the team. I know you're loving every moment of it. You took over after Jim Shaw stepped down, and then unfortunately at the beginning of the season, Jim Shaw passed away. I know that it was a hard hit for your team. I know it was a hard hit for everybody. And I know you wanted to take some time to talk about Jim.
Well, on November 10th, we lost Coach Shaw. And those who knew Coach Shaw knew he battled a lot of health issues for a long time. And when it comes to ambassadors of the game, guys that you never forget the stories, you never forget the on the court and off the court things that he did and said. Coach Shaw was the best. And, when we lost him, I think Division III basketball lost one of its greatest ambassadors. And, I'm proud of, Coach Shaw had over 300 victories in his career, conference championships, national players of the year. And so, when we lost him, it was a devastating blow to myself, my family, the Rose-Hulman family. And, we miss him every day. We set up a little shrine to Coach Shaw for every home game. We have a little poster that we put up. And, after he did step down and I became the head coach last year, he would never sit in the stands. He would always pull the last chair off of our team bench and pull it over to the side and kind of sit under one of the end baskets. So we still do that. We take the last chair off of the team bench, put it down underneath the one basket, and Coach Shaw was always drinking a Diet Orange Crush. So we put a Diet Orange Crush on the chair.
Those exist?
Only if you hunt them down like no other thing. I mean, you can't walk into a store and buy a Diet Orange Crush. But Coach Shaw could tell you any place in America that sold Diet Orange Crush.
That's amazing.
Because if he was ever driving by, he'd buy like 10 cases.
I didn't know the stuff was made. That's outstanding.
Yep.
So that's all down at the end of the bench. Is that just home games? You guys do that for away too?
No, we do it for home games because Coach Shaw made it to a lot of our away games last year, but didn't have that special place that he would sit. He'd kind of find his own location. He never liked to sit with family. He never liked to sit with parents of our players because obviously those were kids that he had recruited and coached, and he always felt like that was a difficult situation. So he tried to put himself kind of away from everybody else. And, the great thing last year was he was our number one fan. He was my biggest mentor in terms of, it's great when the game's over and you can walk over to a guy that basically coached every guy that was on the floor and say, what do we do well? What do we do poorly? We ran basically the same system, the motion offense and man-to-man defense that Coach Shaw ran for 20 years. And so, he was not – he was never shy to tell me what I was screwing up. And I always appreciated that from Coach Shaw.
He certainly was a bigger than life guy, and I mean that literally, because he would always. I always loved when I saw him in Salem. That's usually when I saw him. I got the chance to say hi to him and talk with him. For as big as life guy as he was also a quiet guy. Unless you got him rolling a little bit, you could get him to be boisterous and have fun. But for the most part, he was a quiet guy who just kind of enjoyed being there. If that made any sense, is that the same sense you guys had as him being a coach? I mean, coaching could be a different genre.
Sure. Those who played for Coach Shaw would not agree with you.
See, that's my point.
He was pretty loud. He was pretty up in guys' faces. I mean, the one thing he prided himself on was getting his team to play hard. But if you put him in more of a social atmosphere, he was a guy that loved to sit back and kind of read the situation, kind of just take in information. But like you said, man, if you got him going, forget about it. I mean, you could sit for hours upon hours and listen to him tell stories. Yep. And the thing I always did last year when he was, not coaching anymore, if my phone rang in my office in the middle of the day, I had to make sure I had a 45-minute block available to talk to him, because if he called, he had some stuff to tell me. So I'd always, and if I didn't have 45 minutes, I'd, text him, talk to you later, Coach. But again, really miss Coach Shaw, and I know the D3 community misses him as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely agree with you. It's going to be a little weird going to Salem. To be completely honest, I think that's when it's going to hit me. I'm going to be in Salem. We're either going to have the Hoopsville party, or we're going to be at, in the stand. I'm going to look back into the stands like I always do to see whose coaches are there. He's not going to be there. That's when it's going to hit for me, because I don't remember a Salem where he wasn't there.
I believe, if my count's correct, he's probably been to the last maybe 10 to 12.
Yeah.
Division III Final Fours. I mean, that was an annual event for him. He rarely went to the Division I Final Four. He preferred going to the Division III Final Four and talking with coaches in the Division III level and really soaking up the atmosphere, seeing great teams, seeing great basketball.
I've been to 15. This will be my 16th straight. Those early years, I couldn't tell you who was there or not because I didn't appreciate it as much. So obviously, the ones I've appreciated the most, coaches being there the most on, he was always there. Hey, I got to let you go because I'm way behind schedule. Are you going to get to Salem?
Hoping to.
Come on, you got to keep up the tradition. Pick up some Diet Orange Crush.
I can tell you right now, if Coach McGrath and the Maroons make it there, I'm there for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't notice them on your schedule recently.
We scrimmaged them this year.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
They kicked the tar out of us. And there's a reason I don't have them on my schedule.
I had a feeling. Hey, Rusty, love talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Hopefully you'll make it to Salem so we can at least chat there, maybe have a drink to raise our glass to Jim. In the meantime, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
I want to thank all those coaches and friends who did, contact me when Coach Shaw passed. I really appreciate that. He meant the world to all of us. I want to thank you and Hoopsville for all you do for Division III basketball, and want to thank the Division III fans. They're out there in numbers every Wednesday and Saturday in the HCAC, and we really appreciate them and all the D3 fans across the country. So thank everybody for everything they do for Division III basketball. Great.
Thank you, sir. That was well done. Good luck the rest of the season. Looking forward to watching those darn engineers to tear up the basketball court, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Take care. Rusty Loyd.